An arrogant millionaire hires a simple woman to pretend to be his fiancée and unintentionally falls in love, but discovers something that leaves him shocked. Before starting the story, comment below. Which city are you watching from? Enjoy the story, everyone. Daniel was the CEO of a large tech company and always focused on business. Recently, the pressure had increased with the arrival of a competitor launching a new product, threatening his position in the market. He needed a quick strategy. Amid meetings and emails, Daniel was informed about a conference bringing together all the major companies in the sector. However, he needed a companion for the event. That's when he remembered his assistant, Clara, a dedicated employee who always helped solve problems. He knew Clara was a simple person with a certain innocence, which made it easier to convince her to act as he wanted. So he came up with a plan that would involve Clara. It was risky, but he had to try. "Clara, can you come here?" Daniel asked over the phone. "Sure, I'm on my way," Clara replied, always efficient. Less than 5 minutes later, she knocked on his door. "Daniel, can I come in?" she asked, stepping into the room without waiting for an answer. He was focused on his computer screen. "I need your help," he said, motioning for her to sit. "We're planning a very important project for a traditional client, and since the competitor is closing in, we need to find a way to please the client." "Yes, I reviewed that project and know it's a major client," Clara said, focused. "Exactly, and we're at risk of losing this contract to our competitor. Next week, there's a conference where we can present our project and convince them to close with us. I've thought of an idea that might work. A relationship could be the key to winning this project." Clara raised her eyebrows in surprise. "A relationship? What do you mean?" "A fake relationship. During the upcoming business trip, we'll pretend to be together. The client will want to work with a company that seems happy," Daniel explained. "But how would that work?" Clara asked, hesitant but intrigued. "We'll present ourselves as a couple. You'll be the perfect girlfriend, kind and charming, distracting people with our story," Daniel detailed, trying to convince her. Clara hesitated. The proposal was risky, but it could open new opportunities. "What if this goes wrong?" "Trust me, you have nothing to lose, and we have everything to gain. Afterward, no one will need to know it was a sham," Daniel assured her. Although still skeptical, Clara was drawn to the idea of something new. She thought about the pressures she faced and her desire for change. "All right, I'll do it. But we need to be clear about one thing. The focus is the business." Daniel smiled, satisfied. "Great, this will be a success. And if it all works out, we'll have a good story to tell." As they left the office, Clara wondered if this choice would truly help her or just complicate her life. Daniel, on the other hand, was excited about the idea, unaware that this charade could change everything. In the days following Daniel's proposal, Clara couldn't stop thinking about the trip. Working alongside the CEO meant stepping into a new world, but what unsettled her most was the idea of pretending to be in a relationship. She wondered if she could keep up the act while trying to protect her job and dreaming of a better future. As the trip approached, Clara and Daniel worked on perfecting the plan. They discussed how they would present themselves, what stories to tell, and even how to interact in public like a real couple. The pressure of the charade weighed on Clara, but the anticipation of trying something different also excited her. During these rehearsals, Clara began to notice something different about Daniel. Behind the image of the serious boss was a man grappling with his own insecurities. He often made jokes to lighten the mood, but Clara detected a vulnerability in his words. This new perspective intrigued her and stirred emotions she had never felt for him before. The week passed quickly, and soon it was the night before the trip. Clara packed her bags and looked at herself in the mirror, nervous. What had seemed like a professional opportunity now left her torn between excitement and fear. She wondered if she could keep up the act and if Daniel would do the same. On the day of the trip, Clara took a deep breath as she arrived at the airport. Daniel was already waiting for her, smiling. They greeted each other like a couple and posed for photos for the press, just as they had rehearsed. As they walked toward the boarding gate, Clara felt butterflies in her stomach. It was just an act, but reality seemed more complicated than she had imagined. "I think we're ready for this," Daniel said, trying to reassure her. "Let's make it happen." But remember, this is just work, Clara replied, trying to reaffirm the boundary between the act and real life. However, a small voice inside whispered that maybe this trip could mean something more. Only time would tell what would happen next. The presentation with the client was scheduled for 2 days after Daniel and Clara's arrival at their destination. To prepare better, Daniel decided that having dinner together would be the ideal way to connect more and lend credibility to their fake relationship. The restaurant they chose had a cozy atmosphere with soft lighting and charming decor. When Clara walked in, Daniel saw her and smiled, relieved. "Hi, Clara. You look great." "Hi, Daniel. Thank you. And you, ready for our big performance?" Clara replied, trying to keep the mood light. As they sat down, Daniel ordered a bottle of wine, and soon the food arrived at the table. "So, Clara, before anything else, we need to get to know each other better," he said seriously. "Tell me, what do you really want to do in life?" "Well, I've always dreamed of using technology to solve real-world problems. That's what motivates me to work hard," Clara answered, feeling at ease. "That's great," Daniel commented, genuinely impressed. As the conversation continued, the table filled with stories and laughter. Daniel realized that Clara was much more than the simple, innocent employee he had assumed. With every answer she gave, his admiration for her grew. "How do you think it will feel to act as the perfect couple during the presentation?" he asked, teasingly. "I hope we can pull it off smoothly. Everyone wants to impress the client," Clara replied with a laugh, though the growing emotion made her think more deeply about the risky charade. After more stories, the light-hearted mood shifted. A woman with an elegant posture and piercing gaze approached. It was Mariana, one of Daniel's ex-girlfriends. "Hello, Daniel. I heard you brought a date," she said with a smile that didn't seem friendly. Mariana turned to Clara, who was visibly confused. "Nice to meet you. I'm Mariana, a representative of Desnatia Int," she introduced herself. Extending her hand, Clara shook Mariana's hand, feeling uncertain. "So you're working for the competition now, Mariana?" Daniel said, his tone clearly cold. "Yes, they made me an excellent offer, and I decided to take it." "We should go where we're wanted," Mariana replied enigmatically. "Excuse me, everyone. I have a presentation to prepare, and I'm sure you do too. May the best win." With that, she walked away, leaving an air of mystery behind. "Do you know her?" Clara asked Daniel as soon as Mariana left. "We dated briefly, but before that, she worked for me. The relationship didn't work out, and she resigned," Daniel explained, visibly uncomfortable. "Could she ruin our plan?" Clara asked, her concern evident. "Yes, she might figure out we're lying," Daniel admitted, worried. "I'll do my best in this role," Clara assured him, placing her hand on his to show support. "So will I. I believe that together we can win this project," Daniel said as he squeezed her hand. The tension after Mariana's revelation lingered in the air, but they were both determined to keep their composure. The dinner ended with a mix of uncertainties and renewed determination. They left the restaurant ready for what lay ahead, despite the unexpected twist. The future they were planning now seemed more uncertain, and the charade could turn into a true test of trust between them. Clara knew that for it to work, they needed to play their roles well, but what would happen if reality blurred with their act? The challenge was ahead, and now it was time to act. The 2 days after the dinner were intense. Clara and Daniel spent hours together, not just rehearsing their lines and behavior as a couple, but also fully immersing themselves in preparing the presentation. They dedicated time to studying the client, understanding their needs and expectations, and crafting an effective strategy to demonstrate how their project could meet those demands. The tension between them was palpable, but there was also a growing connection. Clara often found herself feeling at ease in Daniel's company, something she hadn't expected at the start. Daniel, on the other hand, began to see Clara not just as a smart colleague, but as someone who brought a fresh perspective to his life and work. Amid laughter and heated debates about the best approach for the project, something genuine started to take shape. The day of the presentation arrived, and Clara woke up early, feeling refreshed but also nervous. The task ahead could determine not only the company's success, but also the credibility of the act they had been maintaining. As she got ready, her heart raced in anticipation of what was to come. At breakfast, Daniel arrived at the hotel restaurant with a serious demeanor. Clara noticed the tension in his shoulders. They sat at a reserved table and quickly went over the final details of the presentation. Despite the pressure, there was a sense of anticipation in the air. As they ate, the conversation was light, but the tension was evident. They discussed the presentation, and Clara noticed that Daniel was trying to get to know her better. He asked several questions about her life, dreams, and challenges, which made her feel a little more at ease. Gradually, Clara realized that Daniel's questions weren't just part of the plan, but a genuine effort to connect with her. "I think we're ready to impress the client. What are you most hoping to hear from them?" Daniel asked, trying to lighten the mood. "I hope they recognize our effort and the quality of our work. That's what this is all about, right?" Clara replied with a smile. The light-hearted breakfast came to an end as the moment of the presentation approached. Everyone was eager. Daniel presented the products clearly and effectively. During the process, Clara made firm contributions, sharing ideas confidently. He watched her, admiring how dedicated she was to the work. A new dynamic was forming between them, beyond the initial plan. As the presentation progressed, Clara began to feel a wave of doubt. Everything was fake, and the relationship they had constructed for business purposes might not be so simple. Emotions were blending, and the line between professional and personal was starting to blur. After the presentation, Daniel approached Clara, smiling. The tension from earlier in the day seemed to have been replaced with relief. "You did great. Everyone was impressed with your contributions," he said sincerely. "Thank you, Daniel. Your leadership helped me feel more confident," Clara replied, trying to keep the conversation focused on work. As they were talking, Mariana, Daniel's ex-girlfriend and business competitor, approached, offering sarcastic praise. "Well, look at this. The CEO and his girlfriend nailed the presentation. Someone's really having fun," she remarked. At that moment, one of the directors from the potential client's company approached, interrupting Daniel before he could respond to Mariana's provocation. "You two make a great couple. I always prefer working with families. It builds more trust," the director said, shaking Daniel's hand. Daniel smiled awkwardly, and Clara felt a chill in her stomach. The situation was a stark reminder that their charade could be exposed, and everything might fall apart. She wondered what would happen if her feelings for Daniel became real. The more she got to know him, the more drawn she felt, but she reminded herself that it all had to remain strictly business. Feeling conflicted, Clara stepped away from the conversation, trying to process her emotions. "Let's go out and celebrate the success of the presentation," Daniel suggested enthusiastically, unaware of the turmoil in Clara's mind. She nodded, but the weight of the situation made her hesitate. Was this connection real, or was it just part of the game they were playing? As they walked, Clara reflected on what the future might hold for them. Doubts lingered, but a small voice inside her whispered that something special might be growing between them despite the original plan. That thought only deepened her confusion. Clara couldn't stop thinking about the director's comment about families working better together. His words echoed in her mind, highlighting the complexity of the feelings that had been growing with each interaction with Daniel. He was more than just a boss or an ally in a business plan. He had become someone with whom she shared part of her life, even if that part was built on small lies. Daniel, on the other hand, was excited about the presentation's success, but something bothered him. Mariana had always been competitive, and her presence there could mean trouble in the future. He knew he should focus on the results, but he couldn't take his eyes off Clara, who was clearly deep in thought. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked as they walked through the hotel lobby after the event. Clara nodded, pulling herself out of her thoughts and back to the present moment. "Yes, I am. It's just, all of this feels like a lot," Clara admitted, trying to be honest without revealing the turmoil inside her. Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. "I get it, but we did a great job today. I'm sure the client is going to love our plans," he assured her, attempting to comfort her. "Let's play a little game with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments, and only those who make it this far will get it. Now, let's continue the story." As they left the event, Daniel suggested taking a walk around the city before heading to the celebratory dinner. Clara agreed, thinking a stroll might help clear her mind. As they walked through the brightly lit streets, the tension from their responsibilities began to fade, replaced by a lightness they both needed. "You know, Clara, when I first met you, I never imagined we'd end up here, faking a relationship to close a business deal," Daniel admitted with a smile. Clara laughed, shaking her head. "Life has its funny ways, doesn't it?" The conversation became more natural, moving beyond the walls of work and the obligations that had brought them together. They talked about unfulfilled dreams, places they wanted to visit, and even fears they rarely shared with others. Each word seemed to bring them closer, as if the facade they had to maintain only strengthened the truth of a genuine connection. As the evening went on, Clara realized that the relationship born from a professional agreement was blossoming into something unexpected. Yet the fear of losing herself in these feelings lingered. When they arrived at the restaurant, Clara hesitated at the door, her thoughts swirling with uncertainty. "Thank you for today, Daniel. It was special," she said, looking into his eyes, trying to understand what she saw there. Daniel smiled, his gaze reflecting a mix of gratitude and something more. "The pleasure was mine. And Clara, no matter how things turn out, I want you to know that I deeply admire your talent and courage." Daniel's words, sincere and loaded with meaning, left Clara speechless. As they entered the restaurant and sat at their table, she couldn't take her eyes off him. The dinner was a celebration, not just of the presentation's success, but of the spark igniting between them. During the celebratory dinner, Clara felt a growing tension as she sat near Daniel. With each moment by his side, the confusion in her heart intensified. What was supposed to be a moment of joy turned into an internal battle, as separating her emotions from the act they were putting on seemed increasingly difficult. They had to act like a happy couple, but Clara struggled to keep the pretense from becoming real. The line between fake and genuine was thinner than ever, and the emotional strain was starting to show. Daniel, on the other hand, appeared more focused on the results than the emotions swirling around him. He looked at Clara with a smile that made her nervous, stirring feelings she preferred to keep under control. "Is everything okay? You seem worried," he asked, gazing into her eyes intensely. "Yes, I'm worried about the possibility of being discovered," Clara replied, trying to keep her voice steady while feeling her vulnerability grow. "It's hard to maintain this image with so many people watching." Daniel nodded, understanding her concern. The pressure wasn't only on Clara. He, too, was aware of the stakes. Yet in his mind, work always took precedence. Clara felt exposed in her own insecurities. Meanwhile, Mariana, Daniel's business rival and ex-girlfriend, sat at a nearby table, observing the couple's every move. The smirk she wore showed she knew Daniel's past well. Their previous relationship and shared work experience gave Mariana an advantage she wasn't hesitant to exploit. With calculated moves, she had become an unwelcome presence, seemingly intent on causing trouble between Clara and Daniel. Mariana stood and with confident steps approached. "Well, look who we have here. The couple of the moment. Daniel, you certainly have great taste in girlfriends. I hope she's up to the task," she said, her provocative tone hitting Clara like a blow. Mariana's words only deepened Clara's insecurity. Daniel tensed but responded with a controlled smile. "Thank you, Mariana. And you? What have you been up to? I was thinking of inviting you to our next event after we win this project from your company." Mariana wasn't fazed and continued her provocations. "You know, Daniel, it's not easy maintaining a relationship with everyone watching. But it's always interesting to see a CEO use his personal life to distract the competition." She was certain there was something off about their relationship and was determined to uncover the truth and expose Daniel. The tension grew, and Clara felt the need to step in. "We're here to do business, right? Let's focus on what really matters." But her comment seemed to only fuel the provocation Mariana was stirring. What should have been a light and fun conversation was turning into an emotional battlefield. Clara felt vulnerable and determined to protect her space, but she also didn't want to create more conflict. "We should get back to our meal," Daniel interjected, ignoring Mariana and trying to end the interaction. Defeated, Mariana returned to her table, but the sting of her words lingered in the air. Clara watched Daniel closely, trying to decipher what he was really thinking. As the dinner went on, the discomfort persisted. Clara was tired of the situation. What had started as a fun game and a chance for professional growth now felt like a minefield of emotions, where every step could set off an explosion. She realized that interactions with Mariana were constant reminders that the charade couldn't last forever. Determined to clarify things, Clara decided to set aside her instinct to shield the relationship and confront Daniel directly. "Why did you really want to do this? Was it just to distract the competition, or was there more to it?" Her voice carried questions and doubts, each one pressing harder than the last. Daniel's answers could change everything between them. Daniel looked at her seriously, the atmosphere thickening. "You know, Clara, I didn't expect Mariana to show up and disrupt our moment. The truth is, I want to win this project." He took a deep breath, trying to maintain confidence and resolve. "Well, nothing else matters. Business is my priority right now, but I feel like our charade is becoming more complicated." The tension between them was palpable. Clara knew she needed to be honest. "We need to be clear with each other. What we're doing could have real consequences. If we're trying to build something, we need to decide which direction to take." As they spoke, Clara realized the lines between the charade and their feelings were beginning to blur in ways they hadn't expected. The future they envisioned seemed to hinge on how much sincerity they could muster with each other. The confrontation with Daniel during dinner left Clara unsettled. She spent the night replaying his words and pondering his intentions. What had begun as a plan to win a client was evolving into something far more complicated. The tension between them was intensifying, and Clara felt she could no longer ignore her feelings. With every passing moment, the charade they had created to mask a relationship was beginning to twist, revealing deeper truths and conflicting desires. The next morning, Clara decided to address the matter directly. During breakfast, she sat at the table with Daniel, who appeared more relaxed after the previous night's turmoil. He smiled as he poured his coffee, but Clara noticed something else in his expression. It was as if he was carefully weighing his words, trying to figure out what everything meant. "Daniel, we need to talk," Clara began resolutely. "We can't keep going like this. What we're doing isn't just about business." Daniel looked at her, surprised. "What are you talking about?" Clara took a deep breath and gathered her thoughts. Her words needed to be clear, and she wanted to choose them carefully. "We're pretending to be a couple, but things are getting complicated. I don't know where this is heading." Her intention was clear, but uncertainty clung to every sentence. Daniel frowned. "We're just following the plan." "Yes, and that's the problem," Clara responded, her voice tinged with frustration. "Mariana called our relationship a sham, and now I feel like I'm losing control. What do we really want? Did you choose me just for this? Is it really not personal?" Daniel averted his eyes as if processing her words. "Clara, I know this was a strategy, but over the course of this trip, you've become important to me. I didn't want things to turn out this way, but feelings change." His sincerity struck a chord with Clara, but it also stirred her insecurity. "Change how?" Clara asked, crossing her arms as if trying to shield herself from the emotions surging to the surface. "You just wanted to use this to distract the competition, didn't you?" "I'm just a piece in your game." Daniel hesitated before answering. The weight of the situation was written all over his face. "I thought you agreed to this." His determination was crumbling under the pressure of her words. "I did, but you said it yourself. Feelings change." "Daniel, mine have changed. A lot." Clara sighed, feeling the tension between them spike. "I thought this would be an easy trick, a way to buy time. But now I'm not sure if it's just a game," Daniel confessed, his gaze distant. The atmosphere between them was heavy with insecurity, and the honesty finally being spoken sent a chill through Clara. What if this is more than just work? What if everything we're building is more real than we thought? I don't want to just be a tool for you. Clara's vulnerability came through in her words, leaving her feeling exposed. "I never wanted you to feel that way," Daniel said, trying to be sincere. "I like you, Clara. What started as a plan has become something I value. But I can't just throw it all away." With a trembling voice, Daniel revealed a part of what he felt, and the barrier they had built between them began to crumble. Clara felt a mix of hope and doubt. The idea that Daniel might feel something for her was confusing, but the reality of their charade still loomed, making the situation even more complicated. "We need to reevaluate our plans," Clara said. "We have to focus on the presentation and our strategy, but we can't risk our feelings. Let's prioritize our work and set everything else aside." Her heart was conflicted. She didn't want to ruin everything they had built because of feelings that scared her. Daniel agreed, albeit reluctantly. "You're right. We need to stay focused. But, Clara, I want you to know that I appreciate you, not just professionally, but personally too." His words were a small breath of fresh air, but Clara knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The atmosphere between them shifted, but confusion still lingered. Clara felt slightly relieved, but she knew the situation was far from simple. They would need to find a middle ground between what was real and what was fake until the moment came to face the truth. The game would end, and everything could change. Clara felt there was more at stake in their charade now, and knew she had to prepare for what lay ahead. As they finished breakfast, Daniel seemed calmer, though the tension in the air remained. Clara realized the conversation they had shared could be the starting point for a new chapter, but the instability of their situation left her uneasy. The facade they had built together was transforming into an emotional dilemma that could no longer be ignored. "So, what do we do next?" Daniel asked, breaking the awkward silence that had settled between them. "We need to review our presentation for the client." "Yes, absolutely. But we need to pay close attention to the details. We can't let our emotions get in the way," Clara replied, trying to keep her logic intact. "We need to focus on the idea we want to present, and how we can enhance the potential of our project." "I agree," Daniel said, looking at her with an intensity Clara wasn't used to. In his gaze there was a mix of determination and vulnerability that made her pause. The emotional chaos between them wasn't just a jumble of confused feelings, it was also shaping their relationship, and that alarmed her. Clara couldn't ignore how her emotions toward Daniel were shifting. The tension between Clara and Daniel had grown after their honest conversation. They decided to focus on the tasks of the trip, but both were keenly aware that their emotions were on edge. The next day brought a major corporate event where they would present the new product the company had developed. Clara woke early, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The event could be the breakthrough they needed to boost the company, but the pressure only heightened her internal conflict. Pretending to be a couple was becoming harder to manage, especially as her feelings for Daniel intensified. This internal struggle made everything more complicated, and the idea of maintaining the charade filled her with anxiety. As she prepared, Clara organized the equipment and reviewed the presentation one last time. She practiced aloud, trying to envision what might happen in front of the audience. Daniel arrived, looking focused, but Clara couldn't help noticing the shadow of worry on his face. He seemed anxious, and she wondered if Daniel's insecurities were growing because of what was happening between them. The heat of the tension between them was almost tangible, like a storm about to break at any moment. When they arrived at the event, the hall was packed with potential investors and business partners. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with lively discussions and laughter, but Clara couldn't relax. The electrifying energy around her clashed with the turmoil in her mind, caught between the focus required for work and the uncertainties of their relationship. Clara and Daniel delivered their presentation with confidence, discussing the new products and answering questions from the audience. They relied on the natural dynamic they had developed, which made them both feel more secure. But during a casual moment, one of the investors asked a question that caught Clara off guard. "And what about your relationship? Everyone here is curious. What's the secret to being such a successful couple?" The audience laughed, but Clara tensed up. The question presented a chance to reinforce their charade, but inside, a wave of insecurity surged, challenging the facade they were trying to maintain. Sensing the opportunity, Daniel responded with a playful remark. "It's simple. Trust and communication are key. If you don't trust your partner, nothing works, right?" He glanced at Clara for support. Outwardly she smiled, but inside she felt conflicted. His words carried a kernel of truth. But she wasn't sure how much longer she could maintain this act without losing herself in the role she was playing. After the presentation, the event transitioned into a cocktail hour where guests mingled and discussed industry trends. As Clara and Daniel moved through the crowd, conversations about their relationship continued to surface. One of the executives, noticing their closeness, made a more subtle comment. "You two make a great team, not just at work but outside of it too." Those words echoed in Clara's mind. The thought that everyone was watching, waiting for confirmation of the lie they were living, made her feel increasingly exposed. But she needed answers. While they conversed, she decided to discreetly bring up the subject. "Daniel, why did you take the risk of using this relationship as a strategy? Aren't you worried it could harm your reputation?" Daniel looked at her seriously. "I thought a relationship would give us credibility and draw investors' attention. But now I realize it might be more of a burden than I expected. I feel like I should have been more honest from the start." At that moment, Clara decided she couldn't keep pretending nothing was happening. "The truth is, I can't keep faking this. It's affecting me. What about you? How do you really feel about this situation?" To her surprise, Daniel sighed. "I'm drawn to you, Clara, and that's made everything more complicated. I don't know how to separate what's real from what's part of the charade. And when Mariana made her comment, I realized we might have gone too far." A heavy silence hung between them as the reality of their situation sank in. Clara knew they would have to confront the truth about their feelings at some point. But what would that mean for their future? The facade they had created was on the verge of collapsing, and the consequences could no longer be ignored. Lost in her thoughts, Clara felt the atmosphere of the event shifting. After her candid conversation with Daniel, she was more confused than ever. She knew she needed to address the situation between them, but her uncertainties only deepened. The cocktail hour continued, with people chatting animatedly, but Clara felt increasingly distant, consumed by her inner turmoil. After a few moments, she decided to step outside for some air. She walked out onto the hotel terrace, where the view of the illuminated city helped calm her restless mind. The cool breeze provided temporary relief, but the peace didn't last long. Within minutes, Daniel joined her, sensing she needed space. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked, his concern evident. Clara hesitated before answering. "I'm trying to make sense of all this. It's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. And with Mariana breathing down our necks, it's even more complicated," Clara admitted, feeling vulnerable as she opened up. Daniel took a deep breath. "The truth is, I didn't want it to come to this. I thought it would be simple, but you've become important to me. I never planned to get this involved." "Then why did you choose me, Daniel?" Clara asked, crossing her arms, her expression a mix of worry and frustration. "I know you used me as part of a plan, but why me?" Daniel hesitated, looking down at the ground. "To be honest, I thought you'd be easy to convince. I didn't think you'd care this much." Those words hit Clara hard. She couldn't stay in the same room as Daniel any longer. Everything hurt, especially her heart. "I need to leave," she said, turning her back on the event. Certain she needed to step away. Clara felt anger and disappointment coursing through her. She couldn't keep going with this. The charade had become unsustainable. Clara rushed out of the hall, feeling suffocated by the pressure of the situation. The echoes of laughter and conversation faded as she walked further away, but the weight of disappointment clung to her. She didn't know where she was going. She only wanted to escape the space that left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. The fresh air on the terrace wasn't enough to calm her agitated mind. Daniel followed, determined to catch up to her. "Clara, wait," he called, but she didn't stop. Mariana's words about the charade had made her question everything and everyone around her. The emotions between them were confusing, and now she felt she needed to protect herself. "Clara, we need to talk," Daniel insisted, catching up to her in a small outdoor area of the hotel where only a few people lingered. He was out of breath, the urgency in his voice unmistakable. "Please don't go. What happened in there is nothing compared to what you mean to me." She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "How can you say that after everything I've heard? You used me. Isn't it clear what we are? And now, for the first time, I see this was just a business plan for you. Frustration and sadness colored her voice. Daniel hesitated for a moment. "You don't understand. I never wanted this to happen. The plan was to distract the competition, and honestly, I thought I could keep emotions out of it. But I can't anymore, Clara. You've become important to me." Clara took a deep breath, running her hand through her hair. "That's not enough. And honestly, I don't know how you can justify this charade. I'm not a chess piece you can move around as you like. This relationship started as a plan, and now it feels like we're trapping each other in something that will never be real." Daniel looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. He had let himself get caught up in the moment, and now the truth was laid bare between them. "That was never my intention. I really care about you, but I didn't know how to handle this. The pressure of maintaining the charade has made everything confusing." At that moment, reality hit them both. Clara realized their future was unraveling in a sea of uncertainties. "If you chose me because you thought I was easy to manipulate, then I don't think I can keep going. What happened between us cannot be reduced to a strategy." Daniel's expression revealed his internal struggle. He stepped closer to Clara. "What if, instead of walking away, we tried to be honest about who we are? I want this to work, but I know you need space. Still, I want you to know that what's happening between us is real to me. My feelings are genuine, Clara. But can't you see that if we're honest, everything could fall apart? What happened on this trip could have consequences for both of us," Clara said, torn between wanting to connect with Daniel and the need to protect herself. "Maybe the truth is what we need now," Daniel said, a determined tone in his voice. "If we have to confront how we really feel, then so be it. We can't keep living in uncertainty. It's time to decide what we want from each other, and if it's worth it." Clara felt divided. The idea of opening up completely scared her, but at the same time, a small part of her wanted to trust Daniel. What they had built might be real, yet the reality was that every step they took now could lead to either a complete break or a new connection. The choice was imminent, but it would require courage. Clara and Daniel stood in the small outdoor space of the hotel, enveloped in an unyielding tension. The beautiful view around them went unnoticed as they focused entirely on each other. What was at stake was far more important than any scenery or festivity. The charade they had built was on the verge of collapsing, and the truth had to be confronted. "We need to speak openly, without masks," Clara began, deciding that honesty was the only way forward. "I need to understand how you really feel about me. What does this mean to you? I can't leave with uncertainty." Daniel took a deep breath before answering. "I wasn't prepared for what happened between us. To be honest, I thought the act was just a strategy. But as we got to know each other better, I realized this was more than a plan. I like you, Clara. I really like you." Clara's heart raced. Those words sounded sincere, but doubt still lingered in her mind. What if all of this is just the pressure of the situation? What if we go back, and everything you feel fades away? I can't be responsible for a fleeting emotion. "The feelings I have aren't fleeting," Daniel countered, trying to establish a connection. "What we're experiencing is real. Yes, it may have started as a strategy, but now it matters to me. What I mean is, the truth I feel for you won't simply fade. I'm ready to fight for it." Daniel's declaration had a profound impact on Clara. She felt a mix of hope and fear. The past month had been an emotional roller coaster, making it hard to discern what was real amidst the facade. "If that's true, what do we do now?" Clara asked, anxious. "How do we deal with the consequences? What will people think?" "Sometimes we have to take risks for what's right for us," Daniel replied. "We can be honest about what happened and handle the reactions. The truth is, the only opinion that matters to me now is yours. If I've pushed you away with my strategies, I'll have to rebuild your trust. As for what others might think, I can't control that." Clara hesitated, reflecting on the possibility of taking this new path. Does that mean we'd have to be seen together? Not as a fake couple, but as two real people with feelings for each other? "Exactly," Daniel confirmed, resolute. "Accepting vulnerability is part of what we need to do. We have to face not only our feelings, but also what this means socially. We can't keep pretending." At first, the idea of exposing her emotions terrified Clara, but it also felt liberating. The weight of their lies had been haunting her, and the possibility that the truth might bring relief was tempting. If we're going to be honest, then we need to do it now. I'm ready to face what comes next. Their decision marked a turning point. Both knew this choice could shape what lay ahead. Clara and Daniel returned to the hotel hall, ready to face the public's reactions. As they entered, Clara felt all eyes turn toward them, especially Mariana's. She stood nearby, watching with a provocative smile. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. "Hello, everyone. We have something to share," Daniel began, his voice tense. "The truth is, what happened on this trip started as a facade, but now we're truly together. We want to be transparent with all of you." Clara felt a palpable sense of relief. For the first time, she was allowing herself the freedom to be honest. Whatever happened next didn't matter. They had taken the leap, and now everything could begin anew with authenticity. After Daniel's declaration, silence filled the room. All eyes were on him and Clara, and the tension in the air was almost tangible. Then, whispers began to ripple through the crowd. "What do they mean, a facade?" one guest asked. "Aren't they really a couple?" Another questioned, as doubts and curiosity spread. For Clara, revealing the truth was a heavy moment, but it also brought a sense of liberation. After so much confusion, they were finally ready to be authentic. Mariana, watching from a distance, seemed more irritated than surprised. Knowing Daniel for years, she couldn't resist the opportunity to provoke him. "So that's what you've been doing, using your personal life as part of a strategy," she said with a sarcastic smile. "Typical of you. Even our past relationship was just business to you." "No, Mariana. This time it's different. I don't want to turn this into a competition. Clara and I are genuinely together. This isn't a marketing ploy," Daniel replied, trying to stay composed. He turned to Clara with an encouraging look. Drawing courage, Clara continued, "What we've been through is real. What started as a facade became something more meaningful. Daniel is more than a colleague. He's someone who matters to me." Her voice was steady, but a chill ran down her spine as she spoke. The murmurs in the hall resumed, with some people appearing satisfied and others skeptical. Daniel and Clara understood they couldn't expect immediate acceptance from everyone. "I hope, moving forward, you'll see our relationship for what it truly is," Daniel said to one of the potential investors. "We want you all to know that this won't affect our work. We're here to make things happen as a team." "I don't like lies, Daniel," the investor said directly. "But I can see that you truly care about each other. It takes courage to speak the truth like this." He extended his hand to Daniel, who shook it with visible relief. Clara felt a mix of support and surprise as she observed her colleagues' reactions. Her emotions were now out in the open, and the connection between her and Daniel seemed stronger than ever. Mariana, however, wasn't ready to let it go. "You should remember that this could have consequences. What happens when things aren't as perfect as they seem? What if this is just a fleeting romance?" she asked, her words lingering in the air as she watched their reactions. Daniel began to show irritation, but Clara found her strength. "Mariana, we're aware of the risks. Every relationship has its challenges, but we're committed to facing them together. What brought us together is stronger than any strategy." Mariana shrugged, but there was a shift in her expression. She felt jealous of Daniel, yet she couldn't ignore the way he looked at Clara. It was unlike any look he'd ever given her. Despite her skepticism, even Mariana couldn't deny there was something genuine between them. The tension among the guests began to ease. Conversations resumed, and the team started to rally around Clara and Daniel, recognizing that their authenticity could serve as an example despite the challenges. After the big reveal, Clara and Daniel stepped away from the bustling crowd to find a quiet corner. "You did an incredible job today. I'm proud of us," Daniel said, looking into her eyes. "It was a risk, but I feel like we made the right choice," Clara replied, relieved. "We needed to own our feelings, no matter what others might say. Now we can live truthfully." Daniel nodded and took her hand. "Let's make this work, together, not just at work, but in everything ahead of us." Clara smiled, feeling that they were finally ready to face the future authentically and truthfully. A new chapter awaited them, and they were determined to write their story from this moment onward. Following the revelation of their charade, Clara and Daniel's lives began to reshape. When they returned to the office, News of their relationship was met with skepticism by the team. Some were surprised, while others doubted its authenticity. Over time, however, the team began to adapt to the new dynamic between the two. The honesty that had emerged during the event created a renewed sense of trust in the workplace. Colleagues began to open up and show support, acknowledging that there was something real and genuine between Clara and Daniel. The initial shock of the revelation was unsettling, but as time went on, interactions with the team became more seamless. Clara and Daniel started to be seen as a true team. Gradually, their colleagues came to believe that their relationship could bring fresh energy and motivation to the company. With new connections and restored trust, the workplace atmosphere became more collaborative and lighthearted. A few weeks later, Daniel entered Clara's office, beaming with excitement. "We did it, Clara. The client loved us. They were thrilled with our proposal, and we got the project," he announced, his eyes shining with joy. "That's amazing news. We have to celebrate," Clara exclaimed, jumping out of her chair and running to hug Daniel with enthusiasm. "None of this would have been possible without you," Daniel said, pulling Clara closer and kissing her passionately. The kiss was brief, but full of emotion. When they pulled apart, Clara smiled, her heart racing with a mix of achievement and affection for him. "We should throw a team celebration. Everyone worked so hard on this project," Clara suggested eagerly. "Great idea," Daniel agreed, his excitement matching hers. "Let's plan something special. We need to acknowledge all the effort that went into this." In the following days, Clara and Daniel worked together to organize the celebration. They decided to host the event in a space at the office where the entire team could gather. Their goal was to create a relaxed atmosphere where everyone could feel comfortable celebrating. As they planned, Clara and Daniel not only handled the logistics, but also ensured the party reflected the positive energy they had cultivated within the team. Clara, with her knack for organization, focused on the details, while Daniel made sure to encourage everyone's participation. Together, they crafted an event that symbolized their shared journey and the renewed sense of unity in the workplace. On the day of the party, the office was decorated with colorful balloons and congratulatory banners. Tables were set up with snacks and drinks. Clara moved around, organizing everything, while Daniel made sure every detail was just right. As the team began to arrive, the joyful and celebratory atmosphere was contagious. Everyone was smiling, greeting one another, and having a good time. Clara and Daniel exchanged glances, happy to see the team so energized. Midway through the party, Daniel took the floor. "Everyone, I want to thank each of you. This project was only possible because of teamwork. And I'm also happy to say that along with gaining this client, I've also won Clara's heart. We hope this new chapter brings us even more success," he said, looking at Clara with a warm smile. Applause and cheers filled the room. Some shouted, "Cheers to the couple," while others offered congratulations. Clara looked at Daniel, feeling appreciated and supported. It was a special moment. "Thank you all for being here. Let's enjoy this evening and celebrate our achievements together," Clara said, raising her glass for a toast, to the team, to success, and to new partnerships. "Let's play a little game for those who only read the comments. Type Coca-Cola in the comments, and only those who make it this far will get it." Now let's continue the story. The party continued with lively music, laughter, and dancing. Team members mingled, creating new connections and strengthening their bonds. Clara and Daniel danced together, happy to be united both personally and professionally. Each step on the dance floor seemed to reaffirm the chemistry between them. Later, as the party remained in full swing, Daniel pulled Clara aside to a quieter corner. "I'm still amazed at how much you give yourself to everything. You've brought a new energy to the team," he said, holding her hands. "And you've inspired me to give my best, Daniel." "What we're building together means so much to me," Clara replied, looking into his eyes with emotion. "Being with you has been a major shift in my life. Before, I was so focused solely on work that I didn't realize how valuable personal connections could be. You've shown me that it's possible to be professionally driven while also building something meaningful," Daniel said, expressing his genuine admiration. "I truly appreciate that, Daniel. Even though this started as a charade, I'm starting to believe it can all be real. Every day I spend with you My doubts fade a little more. Clara responded, her eyes shining. That's exactly what I want you to feel. And I want us to keep building this together, not just our relationship, but our careers too, Daniel declared, gripping Clara's hands more firmly. In that light-hearted and celebratory atmosphere, Clara realized there was real potential for a future together. The thought of turning what began as a risky plan into a genuine relationship excited her. Feeling encouraged by the trust they were building, she said, "Let's keep supporting each other and make this work. I want our team to see that we're a solid unit, bound not just by work, but by true feelings." Daniel smiled, admiring her determination. He knew challenges would always come, but with Clara by his side, he felt ready to face anything. "You're right, and this party is just the beginning. I want everyone to see that we're more than just colleagues. We're a team in every sense." As the evening progressed, Clara and Daniel rejoined the festivities. Laughter and music filled the room, and everyone was enjoying themselves. Daniel picked up a microphone and announced, "I'd like everyone to join us again. Tonight is special for us and for all of you. Let's toast to past and future successes." A chorus of cheers echoed through the room, and Clara felt the positive energy surrounding them. She realized that by revealing their feelings in a supportive environment, they had not only freed themselves from the charade, but also brought clarity and sincerity to her relationship with Daniel. Later in the evening, as everyone danced, Clara and Daniel stepped aside again for a quiet moment. She looked at him, reflecting on everything they had experienced together. "Daniel, do you think we'll be able to overcome all the challenges that still lie ahead? There's so much uncertainty in the business world." "I believe we can, Clara. What we've learned together and the way we support each other makes everything easier, and no matter what, we know we'll always have each other," he replied, squeezing her hand. "I promise, I'll be here for everything." With a smile on her face, Clara replied, "That makes me feel more secure. We need to keep this open communication and maintain our trust." The music continued to play, but the two of them were lost in their own world. Clara realized that as long as they faced their insecurities together and supported one another, they could achieve more than they ever imagined. That night of celebration was not just a team gathering, it was the beginning of a new chapter in Clara and Daniel's lives. Love and partnership were now intertwined as they prepared to face whatever the future held. The bond they had created grew stronger each day, filling them with hope for a bright future together. After the successful team celebration, Clara and Daniel continued working together, now with an even stronger connection. Each passing day transformed the charade they had started into something much more genuine. As Daniel recognized how his feelings for Clara had deepened, he began contemplating taking a more serious step in their relationship. One evening, while they were watching a movie at home, Daniel decided it was time to talk about their future. He glanced at Clara, who was relaxed beside him, her happiness evident. The light from the TV reflected on her face, and he felt the moment was right. "Clara, can I ask you something important?" "Of course, ask me anything," she replied, turning to face him. "Do you think we're ready to take the next step in our relationship?" Daniel asked, his voice a mix of nerves and anticipation. Clara paused for a moment, thinking about his words. "What kind of step are you talking about?" she asked, a hint of apprehension in her tone. "I'm thinking about us getting married," he said plainly. "I want to truly commit to you. You're such an important part of my life." Clara sat in silence, reflecting on his proposal. Marriage was a big step. While she supported the idea of building a life with Daniel, she was worried about the responsibilities it would bring. "Daniel, do you really think we're ready for this? Not just because of the charade we started, but because of all the changes we've been through. What if things don't work out?" Daniel took a deep breath, sensing her need for reassurance. "I want this because I see a future with you. The challenges we faced and the charade we created brought us closer in a unique way. I believe we've already overcome so much, and it's made us stronger. I'm not saying everything will be perfect, but I want to face life with you, no matter what." "I didn't expect this so soon," Clara admitted sincerely, "but I can see how our relationship has grown. Sometimes, I'm scared of taking this step and how we'll handle it. What will people think? Our story started in such an unusual way. Yes, it did, but our story isn't about what others think. What matters is how we feel about each other, Daniel insisted. And I truly want this. So what do you think? Clara thought about everything they had been through, the struggles and the joys. Deep down, she felt she could be happy with Daniel. After a few moments of reflection, she finally answered, "All right, I'll do it. I'm ready to take this step with you." Joy washed over Daniel. He smiled widely and, holding Clara's hand, said, "Then let's get married." The happiness in his eyes was contagious, and Clara couldn't help but smile at the thought of a life with him. Daniel was determined to plan a special wedding. He wanted the ceremony to be more than just a union. It had to be a celebration of the victories they had achieved together. They chose a beautiful venue where friends and family could gather. In the days that followed, they worked together on the arrangements. The planning was filled with laughter and lively discussions about every detail. The flowers, the music, the food, and of course, the guest list. Clara felt her nerves settle as they made each decision together. When the wedding day arrived, it was clear that after so much uncertainty, they were ready to embrace a new commitment. The day was sunny, and the venue was beautifully decorated with flowers that symbolized their love. Friends and family filled the room, offering their support for the couple's new chapter. As the ceremony began, Clara walked down the aisle, and Daniel stood waiting, filled with anticipation. When he saw her, his heart swelled with love. Clara looked radiant, and Daniel knew that everything they had endured had only brought them closer. During the ceremony, they exchanged heartfelt vows. Daniel looked into Clara's eyes and said, "I promise to support you every step of the way. You are the reason for my smile, and I want to build a future with you." Clara, overwhelmed with emotion, replied, "I promise to be your partner in everything, to share both the joys and the challenges. I want to grow with you and build a life filled with love and respect." After the vows, everyone moved to the reception, where the celebration was just beginning. The venue was beautifully decorated with soft lighting and elegantly arranged tables. Clara and Daniel, now officially married, were the center of attention. Friends and family gathered to congratulate them. Guests started dancing, and Clara and Daniel joined in the fun. The lively music set a joyful tone, and everyone was beaming with happiness. Daniel pulled Clara onto the dance floor, and as they moved together, he looked into her eyes and said, "This is just the beginning. I'm so happy to have you by my side." Clara smiled, her insecurities melting away as her feelings were affirmed. "I know we still have challenges ahead, but tonight everything feels perfect. I'm so grateful you chose me," she replied as they continued to dance. Later, while enjoying a small snack during the reception, Daniel asked, "Do you think we made the right choice? How do you feel now that we're officially a couple?" "Yes, I do. I feel that everything we went through, the struggles, and even the charade, has made us stronger. Now it feels like we're ready for anything. My life with you is what I want," Clara answered, visibly more at ease. The celebration carried on with heartfelt speeches and well wishes for the newlyweds. Mariana, still present, watched from afar. She began to realize that Clara and Daniel's relationship was truly genuine. This new dynamic between them couldn't easily be undone. She had known Daniel long enough to understand he was a dedicated person, even if his approach to relationships was unconventional. As the night went on, Clara and Daniel received a special gift from a close friend, a box filled with photos and messages capturing significant moments shared with friends over the years. Between laughter and tears, Clara and Daniel were deeply moved by the thoughtful gesture. It was a reminder of the foundation they had built together. When the party finally came to an end, Daniel took Clara's hand and led her out of the venue. "You were amazing today. I'm so glad we decided to take this step together," he said, gazing into her eyes. "Me too, Daniel. I hope we can continue building this together. And above all, I hope we'll always have this connection, whether it's during events like this or in the tougher moments," Clara replied, her determination shining through. Their journey was just beginning, and together, Clara and Daniel were ready for the next phase of their lives. What had started as a game had turned into something real, and both knew that building their future was now in their hands. They stepped out into a light rain that had begun to fall, But it didn't stop them from sharing a passionate kiss filled with love and hope. With their hands intertwined, they were ready to face whatever the future held for them as a true couple. What did you think of Clara and Daniel's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And be sure to check out more exciting stories by clicking here on the end screen.